Zanele always dreamed of being a mother. When her baby was born, she felt like her heart had grown bigger. She loved everything about motherhood, the little yawns, the tiny hands, the quiet moments at night. But while her heart grew, so did the distance between her and her husband. At first, she thought he was just tired. Then she started noticing the looks, the way he stared at her stomach, the way he pulled away when she tried to cuddle. One day, she walked past the living room and heard him laughing with his friends. "Look at her now," he said, showing them a photo of her. "Who would want that?" They all laughed. Zanele froze. Her heart dropped. This was the same man who once kissed her stretch marks and called them warrior lines. Now, those same marks were a joke. She didn't say anything that night. She just held her baby tighter and cried quietly in the dark. It broke her. Not just the words, but the betrayal. She had given her body, her energy, her soul to grow their child. And instead of love, she got laughter. The shame started eating her up. She avoided mirrors. She stopped dressing up. She felt invisible, not just to Mbale, but to herself. But something inside her was still alive. Hurt, yes, but not dead. That night, in her tears, a tiny voice whispered, "This is not the end." Zanele thought the pain couldn't get worse. Until one afternoon, she overheard Mbale on the phone with someone. She wasn't even trying to listen, but his voice came through the thin walls like thunder. "No one else will ever want her," he said casually, as if she was some broken thing, unwanted and used. She stood frozen in the hallway, holding her baby, her heart shattering in slow motion. That sentence hit her deeper than any insult ever had. It wasn't just about how she looked, it was about her worth. She didn't cry right away. She just stood there, numb. Later that night, when the baby was asleep and the house was quiet, the tears finally came. But this time, something was different. With every tear, something inside her started to shift. The sadness was still there, but now it was mixed with fire. She was tired of feeling small, tired of being embarrassed about her body, tired of letting his words define her. That moment became her wake-up call. She sat down with a pen and a piece of paper and wrote one sentence. "I'm not done yet." She didn't know exactly what she was going to do, but she knew one thing. She wasn't going to let Mbale be the final chapter in her story. She started researching home workouts. She watched videos late at night when everyone was asleep. She had no gym, no equipment, and no coach. But she had something stronger, a reason. Every time she remembered his words, it pushed her harder. Those painful words, meant to break her, became the very fuel that lit her up from the inside. Zanele had been broken, yes, but now she was rebuilding. And this time, she was building herself not for Mbale, not for anyone else, just for the woman in the mirror. Zanele had no gym membership, no fancy shoes, no personal trainer, but she had a broken heart and a fierce determination. She looked around her small kitchen one morning and saw everyday things in a new way. Buckets, sacks of maize, and old bricks in the yard. They weren't just chores anymore. They were tools. She tied bricks inside an old rice sack and started lifting it like a weight. Her backyard in Mbale became her gym, and the dust under her feet became her training mat. Every morning before the sun rose and her baby woke up, she stepped outside and started moving. She used water buckets for squats, bricks for lifting, and even lifted her baby sometimes during exercises. The village kids would watch from a distance, curious and amused. Some laughed, some cheered, but Zanele didn't stop. She wasn't doing it for them. She was doing it for the girl inside her who had been crushed by someone else's words. She trained with the same hands that had once washed dishes and changed diapers. Her body ached, but her spirit grew stronger. She sweated through wrap skirts and old t-shirts. Her legs burned. Her arms shook, but her mind told her to keep going. She was building not just muscles, but belief. Belief that she could be more than someone's punchline. Even when she felt tired, she remembered the voice that once told her she wasn't wanted. And she turned that pain into power. She didn't need a gym. She had grit. She didn't need equipment. She had purpose. Her small village, the same place where she once felt invisible, was now her training ground. And with every rep, every drop of sweat, every early morning, Zanele was becoming someone new. Someone stronger, louder, and unstoppable. She started recording short clips on her phone, just to track her progress. But she didn't know then that those videos would soon reach far beyond Mbale. For now, it was just her, the dust, the bricks, and the dream of never feeling powerless again. One afternoon, while Zanele was outside lifting bricks and buckets in her backyard, Mbale stood behind the curtain, secretly recording her with his phone. He thought it was funny, her lifting heavy sacks, sweating in an old t-shirt, her skirt dusty from the... Later that night, he posted the video online with a caption meant to mock her. From wife to weightlifter, with bricks faced with tears of joy. He shared it in a group chat, thinking people would laugh like he and his friends always did. But something unexpected happened. The internet didn't laugh. Instead, it saw something powerful. People saw a woman pushing through pain. A mother using what she had, doing her best, lifting not just bricks, but herself. Comments started pouring in. She's a warrior. This is the real definition of strength. Where's her YouTube channel? By morning, Zanele had 10,000 new followers. The video went viral, not as a joke, but as inspiration. At first, she didn't even know the video had been shared. A friend from the next village came running to tell her, holding up her phone, saying, "Zanele, you're trending." Zanele's heart raced. When she saw the video, her stomach dropped, but then she read the comments. Strangers from all over were cheering her on, calling her brave, asking for fitness tips, thanking her for being real. Her eyes filled with tears, not from shame, but from shock. For the first time in a long time, she felt seen. The same bricks Mbale used to humiliate her had now built the foundation of something new, her platform, her voice, her future. The backyard that once felt small was now a global stage, and the woman he tried to shame was becoming a symbol of strength. Zanele didn't respond to Mbale's video. She didn't need to. Her silence was loud. Her strength spoke for itself. And as her followers grew and her inbox filled with messages from women who felt inspired by her, she smiled quietly and kept lifting. The world was finally watching, and this time they were cheering. Zanele didn't want to just post workout videos and show off her progress. She wanted to be real. So along with her fitness tips, she started sharing the truth behind the journey, the hard, messy, emotional parts that no one talks about. She talked about her stretch marks, the way her body had changed after giving birth, how some days she didn't even want to get out of bed. She shared how she used to cry in silence, how she felt invisible in her own home, how Mbale's words stayed in her mind like scars. She posted a photo one day of her belly, showing the marks and loose skin. In the caption, she wrote, "This is where my baby grew. These are not flaws. These are my strength lines." That post went viral too. Thousands of mothers from different places began commenting, messaging her, saying, "Thank you for showing this. And I thought I was the only one." Zanele began going live, talking to other women in real time. She laughed, she cried, and she never pretended to be perfect. People followed her not just because she was strong, but because she was honest. They saw themselves in her. She wasn't just a fitness coach, she was one of them. She shared the nights when her baby wouldn't sleep, and she had to work out with swollen eyes. She talked about eating plain porridge because there was no money for anything else. She admitted when she felt insecure, and she always ended with a message of hope. We don't need to be perfect. We just need to keep going. Something beautiful started to happen. Women across villages and cities started tagging her in their own backyard workouts. They called her Sister Strength. She had unknowingly started a movement, a space where motherhood and strength could exist together. Zanele no longer felt alone, and neither did the women who followed her. She hadn't just changed her body. She had changed how women saw themselves, not as broken, tired, or forgotten, but as powerful. And that was the real transformation. One hot afternoon, as Zanele was washing clothes outside with her baby sleeping nearby, her phone rang. It was a number she didn't recognize, from Lagos. She almost didn't answer, thinking it might be a wrong call. But something told her to pick up. On the other end was a woman with a warm voice, introducing herself as the creative director of a major fitness brand in Nigeria. Zanele listened, confused at first, until she heard the words, "We've been following your story. We want you to be the face of our new campaign, Mothers Are Warriors." Zanele thought it was a joke. She looked around her, the cracked basin, the bucket full of soap, her bare feet on the dirt. "Me?" But the woman kept talking, excited, saying they loved how real she was, how inspiring her message had become. They didn't want a model. They wanted her. Tears welled up in Zanele's eyes as she slowly sat down on the edge of a stone. This wasn't just a phone call. It was a moment that would change everything. She remembered all the nights she cried in silence, all the times she felt small and worthless. And now a major brand was asking her to be the face of strength. A week later, the contract arrived by email. She didn't have a fancy office or a lawyer beside her. She printed it at a nearby shop and signed it while sitting on the same plastic chair she used for feeding her baby. And she wore the same old wrap skirt Mbale once called ugly. That skirt had seen her lowest days, and now it was part of her biggest win. She took a photo holding the signed contract, her baby on her hip, her face glowing with pride. She didn't post it with anger or shade. She simply wrote, "To every mother who thinks her story is over, it's not." From a dusty backyard in Mbale to a campaign in Lagos, Zanele had come a long way. And she hadn't changed who she was, she had just stopped hiding it. Mbale was driving through the busy streets of Kampala one morning when traffic slowed near a big roundabout. As he sat there, annoyed by the jam, he glanced up and froze. His eyes widened. Right there, towering above the city, was a giant billboard. And on it, smiling proudly, muscles showing, baby in one arm, was Zanele. He couldn't believe it. Her name was in bold letters, next to the words, "Mothers Are Warriors." She looked strong, confident, beautiful. The same woman he had mocked, ignored, and laughed at in front of his friends was now looking down at him from a place he never imagined she could reach. Manla's jaw dropped. For a moment, he forgot about the traffic, the honking horns, everything around him. All he could do was stare. That billboard didn't just show Zanele's face. It showed everything he had failed to see in her. Her strength, her fire, her courage. Zanele had once stood in the kitchen, crying quietly as he threw careless words at her. Now she stood tall for the world to see, not as a victim, but as a symbol. She hadn't shouted back, hadn't tried to hurt him in return. She had simply risen. When Zanele first got the billboard news, she didn't tell anyone right away. She waited. She wanted Manla to see it himself, out there in public, with the whole city watching. And when her friend finally sent her a photo of Manla's stunned face, sitting in traffic below her image, she smiled quietly. She wasn't smiling out of revenge. She wasn't bitter. She was just proud. Proud of how far she had come. Proud that the same body he once mocked was now being celebrated. Proud that her story, once whispered in pain, was now shouted across the skyline. That billboard wasn't just an ad. It was a message to every woman who had ever been made to feel small. A reminder that they are more than what someone else says they are. Zanele didn't just make it to the top. She made it with grace. And the world finally saw what she had always carried inside her. Not long after the billboard went up, Manla showed up at Zanele's door. He wasn't laughing anymore. He looked nervous, almost embarrassed. Holding his cap in his hands, he said all the things she once begged to hear. "I'm sorry. I was wrong. You look amazing. Please, can we start over?" But this time, Zanele didn't cry. She didn't even raise her voice. She just looked at him calmly and said, "I've already started over, without you." She didn't want revenge. She wasn't interested in making him feel the pain he once gave her. She had already walked through fire and come out stronger. What she wanted now was peace, for herself, and for other women who had been made to feel like they were nothing. Instead of going backward, she moved forward. With the support of her new followers and her campaign earnings, Zanele did something no one expected. She opened a fitness center right there in Mbale. It wasn't fancy. It didn't have mirrors or air conditioning, but it had bricks, tires, ropes, and most of all, heart. She called it the Mother's House. And it wasn't just for working out. It was a safe space. Single mothers came with babies on their backs. Women who had been silenced, shamed, or abandoned came with nothing but their pain. And Zanele welcomed them all. She taught them how to train their bodies, but more importantly, how to believe in themselves again. There were no judgments. No tight gym clothes. No perfect bodies. Just women sweating, laughing, crying, and healing together. Zanele trained them barefoot, in the same wrap skirt Manla once hated. That skirt had become her armor now, a symbol of where she'd been and who she had become. When people asked why she didn't take Manla back, she simply said, "Because I finally took myself back." She had turned her pain into purpose, her wounds into wisdom. And the woman who was once mocked for lifting bricks was now lifting others. Zanele didn't just change her life. She created space for others to change theirs too. That was her real power. And this time, she wasn't giving it away. Every time Zanele signed a new contract, it felt like more than just paperwork. It felt like healing, like taking back every piece of herself that had once been broken. She remembered the first time she held a pen to sign something official. Her hands were shaking, not from fear, but from disbelief. "Is this really happening to me?" she whispered to herself. A woman who once cried in silence was now getting offers from all over Africa. Magazines from Accra wanted her on their covers. Her photo, once hidden from shame, now stood proudly in glossy pages under titles like Strength Redefined and The Face of Real Fitness. Then came the TEDx talk invitation from Nairobi. Zanele couldn't believe it. "We want you to speak about strength, motherhood, and rising after being broken," they said. She said yes, with tears in her eyes and her baby on her lap. When she stood on that stage in Nairobi, wearing her head wrap and her proudest smile, the crowd fell silent. And then she spoke, not as a fitness coach, not as a viral star, but as a woman who had once been laughed at for her stretch marks and now stood on a red circle, telling the world, motherhood is not weakness. It's power in its purest form. Every contract she signed from then on, whether for a campaign, a speaking gig, or a fitness collab, wasn't just about money or fame. It was a reminder that she was seen, that her story mattered, that the same body Manla once called ruined was now admired, respected, and celebrated. She kept a small box at home where she folded and saved every signed paper. Not out of pride, but out of gratitude. Each one told a story, not of luck, but of hard work, healing, and courage. And each time she opened that box, she remembered the girl who once thought her life was over. Zanele wasn't just signing contracts. She was signing declarations that strength comes in many forms, that mothers deserve to be more than just survivors, and that pain doesn't have the final word. Power does. Zanele's body was once mocked, laughed at, and picked apart. Her stretch marks were called ugly, her belly called ruined. The man who promised to love her through everything had turned her body into a joke. But today, that same body is admired by millions. Not because it's perfect, but because it's real. She didn't chase beauty standards. She didn't try to erase her scars. Instead, she made them part of her story. Every mark, every soft curve, every line told the truth of a mother, a fighter, a survivor. And the world saw it. Not just her strength, but her honesty. Women across countries looked at her and felt seen. They said, she looks like me. And if she can rise, maybe I can too. Zanele became more than a fitness model. She became a symbol of what happens when a woman stops shrinking to fit into someone else's idea of beauty. When she stands tall in her pain and still says, I'm worthy. Her followers grew. Her name spread. But through it all, she stayed grounded, still training barefoot in Mbale, still lifting bricks with joy, still hugging the same women she once cried with. She didn't let fame change her heart. She used it to open more doors for others. She turned every bruise into brilliance. What once felt like shame, she transformed into strength. The world didn't just fall in love with her body, they fell in love with her story. And Zanele, once silenced and laughed at, now speaks to millions, not just with her words, but with every step she takes in truth.